have something to be excited about since this spring training seems to be lasting forever. I'm so ready for the regular season to begin. Hi, everybody. I am Craig. Welcome to MetropoliFins. We are YouTube's smallest New York Mets and Miami Dolphins channel. So the game is just about wrapping up, so we're going to do a little bit of coverage here on the end of the game. Not that it matters that much. The Cardinals are batting here in the top of the ninth inning, trying to put some sort of rally together, but the Mets are up 8-0. But we've got some great things to be talking about today after the horrible news about Francisco Alvarez being hurt yesterday came out. Now to have the fact that, okay, well, we got to move on, right? Life has to go on here as we are moving in this direction of, okay, this is what we have, so this is what we got to do. And so we've got some updates on a bunch of different things, and so we're going to kind of update you on this game in case you're like me and you didn't get to listen to it or watch it all. Going to give you the basic breakdown. Of course, I'm going to just tell you right up front, I haven't seen all the video. All I got to do was look at the highlights, and the highlights are showing me all the things that I want to be seeing right now. So with that in mind, I'm going to be driving home, so I might not see each and every one of your comments as they come through. That does not mean that I'm ignoring you. It just simply means that I can't see each and every comment as I am driving, but I will do my best to cover anything that I miss as soon as I get safely parked. So we're going to just go through the things that I noticed. The first thing that I noticed when I'm looking through stats, as I got to watch out for crazy cars that are just driving crazy, is Juan Soto hit a home run again tonight. Juan Soto looks like he is in regular season form. And so that was super exciting to see that he hit another bomb, Soto. And so I'm super excited about that. Also, Mark Vientos hit another home run tonight as well. And so, again, seeing both Soto and Vientos, and by the way, the game just officially went final. I believe 8-0 is the final score on that. So the Mets do win another spring training game. Again, the score is not the point. The point is seeing the performances of players. So Juan Soto with another home run, Mark Vientos with another home run. This team is looking super strong and powerful at the top of the lineup. I mean, I've been cautioning and warning, like, hey, you know, it's going to be tough for Vientos to have a repeat season because there's a lot more film on him now, and it still does remain to be seen whether or not Vientos is going to be able to sustain this in the regular season. Of course, if you're familiar with baseball, you're probably familiar with the term sophomore slump. This idea that sometimes players that have a good first year up in the majors, they kind of have a little bit of regression the second year. We certainly saw that with Alvarez last year. Unfortunately, with him being injured, it's going to take a little while for him to move on from that again. But Mark Vientos is showing all the signs that he is not going to just slump, but that he's actually going to have this opportunity to even keep on growing with a full season potentially being available to him here. And so Vientos keeps hitting in spring training. And again, I get it, it is spring training, but that's all we have to evaluate on. You can't say, well, he's only doing it in spring training if that's the only opportunity he has to do it, right? You just want to see, is he coming out? Is he producing the way that you would want to see him producing? Because you can't say, oh, spring training doesn't matter, but then also be on someone who's having a bad spring training. And I see this a lot from Mets fans. They're like, well, I don't care that he's doing well in spring training, but then at the same next breath, they're going to say, well, Edwin Diaz is having a horrible spring. That means he's going to have a horrible season. Well, which is it? Does spring training matter or does it not? And I think it does matter, but not in terms of things like record. It matters in terms of things like mechanics. And you are seeing everything that you would expect to see from Juan Soto, and I'm seeing even better than what I was expecting to see from Mark Vientos. Now, that leads to better than expected, another one. We've talked a lot this spring about Brett Baty, and I don't know why there's so many Mets haters out there who are Mets fans who are haters on Brett Baty just because he struggled at the major league level sometimes. Now, remember, not all the time. He has hit some big hits up in the majors. But another player that a lot of Mets fans love hating on, and I have no idea why. Well, I kind of know why, but it's Jeff McNeil. And I'm going to tell you, everything I'm seeing this spring looks like we have Jeff McNeil 3.0. Jeff McNeil 3.0. What was Jeff McNeil 1.0? He was the slap hitter. He was the batting champion. Okay? He was the guy that everybody was like, wow, this is like just the guy that you want to have. You can hit him anywhere from like 1 through 9 in your lineup. Anywhere you want to place him, you can do it. Okay? And then when they got rid of all the shift rules and all these analytics, kind of came in and really messed up everything that he was. And again, I'm not anti-analytics. I just think there's certain players that the analytics do so much better with than others. And I think Jeff McNeil is one guy who just had everything he was about got completely messed up by analytics. And I'm seeing Jeff McNeil 3.0 going back to being a slap hitter, having fun playing baseball. I'm seeing smiles even when he has bad calls go against him. He's not getting grumpy. He's not yelling at the umps or yelling at himself. He just looks like a new guy, and I've seen this over the last few years. So, Jaeger, how's it going? I hope you are doing well as well. Yeah, we just got done with a live stream for food delivery on the other channel, and now we're out here talking Mets baseball. Mets just completed an 8-0 victory over the St. Louis Cardinals. So Juan Soto with a home run, Mark Vientos with a home run, Jeff McNeil got the scoring started with the RBI double. Okay, now I also have Luis Torrens, who is now your starting catcher for the Mets, and he had a great performance. And so this is what you want to see, is that you want to see a team that has this depth being built out. And I think that's one of the big problems that the Mets have had in the past is when you go super top heavy and you bring in all these superstars, but you have nobody behind them, as soon as there's injury problems, you go into panic mode because there's just no depth. And I'm telling you, even though I'm not happy that Alvarez is down with an injury and is going to be out for probably 2 months, maybe more, I feel like, okay, this isn't the worst thing in the world, because now you got Torrens, who's coming in and able to contribute right away. And so this is a big deal that you have this depth that is just all one player can step up. And so Torrens tonight, he hit a home run, okay? And that was after yesterday, okay? Yesterday for the Mets. Hold on, I gotta make sure I get all my names right here, because we've got a position battle for backup catcher. But yesterday, not only did Mark Vientos homer, but also Jackson Reitz, who's auditioning to be the new backup catcher for the Mets, he hit a grand slam yesterday. So in the 36 hours since Francisco Alvarez was announced being out for 6 to 8 weeks or longer with a broken bone in his hand, his hamate bone, fracture, technically, whatever. If I'm not a doctor, I don't know if I got the terms right, but, you know, in the 36 hours since then, the backup catcher, who's the new starting catcher, Luis Torrens, hits a home run, and Jackson Reitz, who is potentially auditioning to be the new backup catcher, both have hit home runs. Okay, can you think of how many times that in back-to-back games our number 2 and number 3 catchers have hit home runs for the Mets? It's not a thing that happens commonly, but because the Mets have been building out depth, they've got this whole thing going where, okay, more than one guy can carry the team. And yes, it sucks that Alvarez is out. It sucks for him. It sucks for the team. It sucks for us as fans. And I wish him a super speedy recovery. But the fact is, the team doesn't have to go into this panic mode. And will the Mets trade for someone? If they can find the right fit, that's fine. But what content creators are just going to start posing to you is all these people. We should reunite with this catcher, reunite with that catcher. Like, we don't need to do that. There's just zero need to panic. If you roll a couple weeks into the season and things aren't working great, okay, then you can pursue that. If the injury's going to last longer than 6 to 8 weeks, maybe you pursue something like that. But why not have one of these guys who was auditioning to be backup catcher, but probably no real shot, give him a shot. And then if Jackson Reitz can come out on fire, now you've got a nice trade piece that you can do, because you got Torrens, who's going to get more playing time. And Alvarez, when he comes back from injury, the positive is at least he won't be as exhausted at the end of the season, because he won't have played in as many games. And yeah, it's going to take him a little while to get back into game shape. But I'm just telling you, this whole perspective of We need to go out and get somebody. That perspective needs to change. If there's a great deal to be made, make a great deal. I have no problem, and I have full confidence that David Stearns will be scouring and looking for new free agents and players who are dropped or DFAs, but I don't want to be trading away blue chip prospects for 6 to 8 week rentals. This is ridiculous to hear this at the beginning of the season. Instead, I just want to see, let's give some of these guys a chance and let's see what they can do. Think about how many players have gotten opportunities over the years because of injuries and shown out. For example, and I'm not comparing anybody, this is cross-sport competition, but the whole reason that Tom Brady became Tom Brady, or a big part of it, was Drew Bledsoe got hurt and he was given an opportunity. Could you imagine if that was what had happened and the Patriots just said, hey, we got this Brady guy, he's the backup, but we're not going to give him a shot. Let's go trade for some other, washed up quarterback. Like, sometimes you got to give these guys a chance and just say, look, we don't want this to happen, but Providence is just giving us this opportunity to try out somebody new. And I think Jackson Reetz and Luis Torrens should at least get an opportunity to hold down this job here for the next 6 to 8 weeks. And if it's not going well after a couple weeks, you're going to know. You're going to know, is Jackson Reetz literally a one grand slam, one hit wonder in the preseason, or can he actually hold his own? He's barely gotten any shot in the majors, played something like 20 games. We were looking at his stats live on the stream yesterday. So, Reetz, Torrens, maybe. All right, lastly, Griffin Canning. I am feeling like, wow, I am not a big fan of Paul Blackburn, and I think most of you are not big Paul Blackburn fans either. But maybe, just maybe, Griffin Canning can work his way into this rotation here sooner rather than later. And maybe, if we got to start the year, because I think I heard that they were planning on or had already sent Canning down to the minors, but man, I would rather see this. I mean, he pitched over three innings, shutout ball tonight, and only gave up one hit in his outing. Super, super excited about the fact that, hey, if we just need some spot starts in here or whatever, maybe can we get away with a 4-man rotation for a few weeks until some of our prospects are maybe ready to give presentation. Of course, eventually you've got Montas and Manaea coming back. That's why I think this whole premise of you've got 2 or 3 guys in the minors who are potentially ready to, make their major league debuts here in the coming weeks. And you got Montas and Manaea who are planning on coming back from injury. They're not out for the season. Why would you want to be going and trading all these guys when potentially you could have 9 starting pitchers on this roster, or at least in this organization, like 9 legit starting pitchers by mid-June into July? You don't need to be going and trading for all these guys and trading all these top blue chip prospects away. And I think this is the whole thing. Like, yes, we have the money to spend. Uncle Steve has the money to spend, but there's just zero reason, if you're building out depth in your roster and you got guys who are going to start the year in minor league camp, give them opportunities to step up. Why bring them in if you're not going to give them an opportunity when the opportunity presents itself? If you want, if you want a McCann, or you want to bring some guy back, or something like that, then just bring them back before. But you didn't bring them in the first place because you didn't trust them for some reason. Instead, you brought in guys who you figured, you know what, they're going to push everybody, and maybe you see something in them and give them a chance. So that's just my big take on this whole thing. I see, and I get it, it drives clicks. That's why content creators love to do things, because it drives clicks. But reality is, let's just take a deep breath. We've got a lineup that can put up runs, and we've got some really good starting pitching so far out of Clay Holmes, out of David Peterson, and then you've got guys who definitely need some polishing. Of course, Kodai Senga, who has the potential to be a number 1 starter. He's got to just kind of put it all together, stay healthy. But, you got Griffin Canning who's showing out. You got Tyler McGill, who's had flashes of brilliance, when he was part of that team no-hitter. Plus, you've got, like I said, 2 minor leaguers ready to come up. You've got a guy like Paul Blackburn who can fill in every now and then, or a Griffin Canning who can fill in now and then. You've got minor league guys. You've got Montas and Manaea, who are both potentially on their way back to coming with this squad, in June, July, somewhere in that time frame. Like, you've got all these things, and I just think there's zero need to be panicking on the Mets front. I get it. It's what we do as Mets fans. Get it? It's what everybody else does. LOL Mets. But this is different because of the depth. Now, can we have nonstop injuries? Of course not. But when you're not dealing with season-ending injuries, you're going to basically have 4, 5, 6 guys who are potentially coming back to this Mets team over the next 8 to 10 weeks, depending on how long some of these injuries go. And maybe 1 or 2 of them will drag on. But there's no need to be trading for blue chip prospects for frontline starters at any of these positions, not just pitching, but fielding, hitting. Like, you just don't need to be doing it when you have these guys coming back. It's like the Mets are going to already have this trade deadline built in where between June and July, you're going to get 4 or 5 of your starters back, or 4 or 5 of your 26-man roster back in the very least. And I just think that the Mets don't need to be panicking over all of this. Yes, injuries are bad, but also this is why you build out depth. This is why Stearns isn't paying for Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander and those guys on huge, huge contracts. Because if they don't work out, then you're stuck. That's why you've got Manaea and Montas and McGill and Senga and Peterson and Clay Holmes and Paul Blackburn and Griffin Canning. I mean, it's just crazy that you have all this, and 2 prospects that are going to be looking to break the roster. Like, you have this depth because when hardships come, because hardships will come, because you're a baseball team, and because players get injured, even in great seasons, you got to learn how to weather through those injuries. By the way, I'm home, so I can actually look at the camera and answer any comments that you have. That's why you have the depth. This is why you don't give up on pieces and players who have positional versatility, who have had down years or a down couple of years, because you're working with them and you're building them up. This is why I don't give up yet on Jeff McNeil. This is why I'm not asking Brett Baty to be traded for some, number 5 or number 6 starter to come play for us for 6 weeks. Because if Baty can play third and can play second and can play outfield, if those rumors are really true that he's ready to start doing those things, I mean, obviously they'll ease him into it. And if McNeil, or since McNeil can play second and can play outfield, and those guys can go in a variety of different places, and Vientos is a guy who you're going to want to actually have as your designated hitter because he's a legit power bat in the lineup, and you can play Baty at third. All of a sudden, this positional roster flexibility and variety is going to be what is going to be a powerhouse for this team. Yes, it is not all stars from 1 through 9 all the way down the lineup. But what it is we've got a lot of second and third, backups, third string players who could be starting on other teams. And that is sometimes just as valuable, if not more valuable, than having an all-star starting lineup where you're kind of shallow if you go behind those. And so this is why I'm not in panic mode. Juan Soto raises the tide, right? What is the thing? A rising tide lifts all boats. That's what Juan Soto does. Because if the Mets get off to a rough start, all the blame, all the hate's going to go on Soto. All the LOL Mets are going to go on Soto and Lindor. Okay, it takes the pressure off of Vientos and Baty and McNeil and even Alonso to a certain extent to have to be these superhero players, because everybody in the lineup can have each other's back. And even if a guy has to sit out, have a day off, is injured for maybe 2 or 3 days, not maybe an injured list level, but he's just got to sit out for a couple of 3 days, you're not going to be in panic mode. And we've got depth at the starting pitching. Even now, I would feel like if we had to bring up one of our prospects for a game or 2, I'm not in panic mode for the starting pitching staff. I'm not in panic mode for Edwin Diaz, because if you're watching what's going on and you're seeing what the purpose of spring training is, it's how everything is going to work together with everything that is going on. So that is my take. Again, I didn't get to watch the whole game. I just got to, or listen to the whole game. I just got to look at the box score, see what's going on. But you're seeing this is where, and this is how a David Stearns team is built, combined with Steve Cohen's money, right? It's not either or, it's both and. It's both Uncle Stevie's money and David Stearns' unique creative roster construction. And you have to trust the process of the pitching lab, of the hitting lab, of this whole idea that David Stearns obviously, any one of us would know how to go and spend a bunch of money on players, but we know that that doesn't automatically win. Again, see Scherzer, see Verlander, okay? But you can selectively pitch your money at the best possible targets for your team. So you can give a big, huge contract to Juan Soto. You can sign Brandon Nimmo to a long-term extension. You can sign Francisco Lindor and do those things, but then you don't have to give the big contract to get Pete Alonso to come back. You don't have to give huge contracts to Clay Holmes, who's kind of a project that you're hoping is going to work out, but if it doesn't, and I mean, everything looks like he's going to be great this season, but if he tires out at the end of the season, or if it ends up blowing up in our faces, you're not paying huge money. You're not stuck with 10-year pitcher contracts for these guys. You're just in, you use this, and so it's the combination of it. And then if the Mets need to make the big move, you know, if Vlad Guerrero Jr. is the direction they want to pivot to next offseason, they have the money to do it. But why do they have the money to do it? Because even with Uncle Stevie's money, it's not an unlimited bankroll because there are luxury taxes. He is a businessman. He still needs to, he wants to win a championship, but he's still trying to make money. And so you have this Stearns mentality of we can fix this guy in here and this guy in there. And if there's a good trade, they're going to make a good trade. But I don't expect, even with all the injuries that we're seeing right now, I just don't expect the Mets to be making huge splashes in the trade market. You might see the Mets trade for a catcher, but if it is, I doubt it's going to be a mortgage the future trade. And if it would be, I would be the first one to criticize it. It's going to be much more like our number 30 prospect being traded for somebody's backup catcher or some catcher who is going to be DFA'd or something like that. I think that the Mets are still not in panic mode. And if you're a Met fan in panic mode, I'm going to say, take a step back, take a deep breath. Look at how everything is going together. Your backup and your third string catcher have both hit home runs in back-to-back games since Alvarez has been announced as out. You've got Griffin Canning, who is like our number 8 pitcher. Is that what it is? You got, I don't even know what number. Number 8 pitcher came in and threw 3 shutout innings with 1 hit ball tonight. This is not panic mode. This is a Stearns team. This is how the Brewers, despite a lack of a payroll, were consistently playoff contenders year after year after year. And this is what the Mets can be, but with also being able to spend for Soto and being able to splurge on Pete Alonso for a couple-year deal without being locked in, and being able to spend on Francisco Lindor, and being able to do those things. And don't forget, even on the catching side, you've got other guys who are at camp. You've got Kevin Parada, who's a prospect. Maybe this is his chance to move up and to AAA and really like try to audition for that backup or that third string role eventually as well. There is no panic necessary in Metsville yet. Don't worry. If we get to the point of panic, I will help sound the alarm. But I think we are okay. Obviously, we need the injuries to stop. You know, we don't want injuries to continue on forever. But we are in okay shape. We're going to make this work. And we can just rely on depth. And we don't need to be panicking before this regular season even starts. I appreciate each and every one of you. Again, I am Craig. Welcome to MetropoliFins. Make sure you click on the link in the description below. Sign up for the free David Peterson giveaway that we are doing. All you have to do is provide an email address. We're going to do that drawing really soon. We'll let you know about it. And once you enter that, you will enter for all future drawings. We're going to do one for 150 subs, 200 subs, all the way building up until we get to however many thousand subs. Hopefully we get to one day. But I appreciate each and every one of you. Relax. Don't panic. Hit that like. Hit that subscribe. We will talk to you soon. Let's go Mets.